Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the Burlington Police Commission meeting. The date is August 27th, and the time is 6:02 p.m. All commissioners are present, and we have quorum. I usually say also present Chief Murad. He's not here as of yet, but hopefully he'll come any moment.
I move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of the approval of the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Item 2 is approval of minutes from the July meeting of the commission. Any changes? Do you want to turn on your?
Just when I was in attendance at the last meeting. It wasn't reflected in the minutes.
Oh, okay. So, Tim, could you please take note of that? Is there a motion to accept the? Is there a motion to accept the minutes with that change? Is there a motion? Okay. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor of the approval of the minutes, say aye.
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 Item 3 is.
Please note, just please reflect that I abstained from that. I was not here.
Okay, right. Item 3 is public forum. As in every meeting, I request that you keep your comments civil, address your comments to the commission as a whole, and be cognizant of the commission's time. I have initiated a time limit, and every speaker will be given 3 minutes to speak, with a total of 10 minutes for all speakers. So please come forward, introduce yourselves, and let's get started.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be back. My name is Romeo von Herman, and I'm a fellow Burlingtonian. So today I'm here out of concern on some of the incidents that have been happening recently in our city. And for somebody who has an intimate, direct interaction with members of our public, both folks that are moved here recently and folks that have lived here for quite a while. I am concerned because I'm seeing a trend in the wrong direction with respect to the number of incidents that are happening. Truth be told, that I do not put a blame on the current administration. I think it is a collective responsibility in terms of addressing our city's incidents, such as the shootings that just happened recently with the juvenile minors that are brandishing guns in our city, as well as other incidents that happen in different parks in our city. So what I'm wondering is, what are we doing collectively to address these issues and not treat it as a lip service in terms of some of the key solutions that are needed? I looked at the current report that our chief will be presenting during this meeting, and I am left more alarmed than before, in part because we are getting very close in par with 2022 numbers in different categories. So again, I don't want to be an alarmist or somebody who's here to say it's a doom and gloom. As you are all aware of, we are a city of not more than about 40 to 50,000 individuals, and the fact that we have the amount of incident happening in such a short subsequent is very concerning. I'm wondering how our city is meeting the moment, and what are we doing to reach out to these young adults and other members of our public in terms of resolving disputes much more amicably, and also what are we doing in terms of providing resources to members of the public, not just meetings or public forums or events of just talking about things, but just existing organizations. What is our commissions, the mayor's office, the police department, and other entities such as social services groups, what are we doing to really provide when it comes to talking about a conflict of resolution? How can our members of our city residents find a better way to resolve conflicts before somebody goes out of their way to take somebody else's life in public or in private for that matter? So I'm just here to share my concern, and I look forward to the upcoming public forum or public forum regarding public safety on September 5th here. But I am wondering, are we really going to see tangible results within the end of this year, within the end of next year? Or is this going to be, you know, a meeting that happens every couple of months, couple of years, where we just talk about the same subjects over and over? Is there an adequate plan that our city is working, is what I'm wondering. And I'm hoping that through the chief's representation today of the chief's report, that hopefully somehow, some way that, you know, because I see a lot happening online where people share their frustrations, but in person is a different story altogether. So again, thank you for the time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hi, folks. My name is Lee Morrigan. I live in Ward 3. I wanted to come tonight to say first and foremost, I really appreciate the actions of the police department and the chief in response to the recent shooting. Very scary for Burlingtonians, and the first facts are, you know, very alarming. So thank you to the chief and the department. You know, another thing I wanted to talk about, I wanted to congratulate Commissioner Comerford on reappointment to the commission. As a commissioner, I'm on the Parks Commission. I know that the appointment process is very arduous. And in Burlington right now, I feel like we're at a turning point with public safety. Sorry, the microphone keeps cutting in and out. You know, we're getting past a lot of issues that we've really been stuck on as a city, such as the police oversight issue that's going to the council now. Hopefully we'll make it to the November ballot. And I feel like with the appointment of the chief by Mayor Mulvaney-Stanek, I feel like we have a real opportunity here to go in a new direction, building public trust, not only with the department, but with the commission. And as a commissioner, I can tell you when reappointment votes go to a table vote, that's not good for the health of a commission. The best is when an incumbent makes it on a slate. That shows that there's stability. The public needs to know that there is stability, that the people at the helm of making these decisions are solid. So I encourage you to build those relationships with each other. If there are deficits, to work on those with each other. Try to get incumbents to a slate and not a table vote, and show Burlingtonians that you all are solid, you are working for us, and your main concern and energy is being focused on the oversight duties that you have and the other duties you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4 is Chief's report. Tim?
Grant online with a raised hand.
Say that again?
Councilor Grant, I believe, is online for
Okay, all
public
right.
comment.
Oh, yes, thanks for telling me that there are people online. Thank you, Tim.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Councilor Grant.
Thank you. I want to agree with the sentiments from the first 2 speakers. I appreciate their time for saying that. I wasn't going to mention it, but I will, since it was brought up. I was deeply, deeply concerned with how political the process was when Susie Comerford had reapplied for the commission. It was gravely disturbing. I encourage you all to watch those meetings and see what happened. And there were accusations of false information coming from other commission members. And that was, to me, gravely appalling. So please be mindful of the politicizing this commission. When people see things like that happen, they can't trust your work. I wanted to say, you know, I got caught off the last time, and one of the reasons, there are actually many reasons why I get very heated, and I just wanted to bring them to your attention. I've talked about in the past the importance of being aware of what's going on in Central District because there isn't the representation in Central District. Think about where all these events this past weekend happened. Most of them happened in Wards 2 and 3, Central District. Think about the use of force lawsuits. These happened in Central District, and many, many other things. The epicenter, not only in Burlington, but in Chittenden County, is in our Central District. So I'm out here and I am with my neighbors, with residents, with constituents, and I am out here all hours of the night. I am down on Beale Street. I am walking by the parking garage. I'm verifying what people are saying. I'm trying to do whatever I can in a very difficult way, and I can't get the police department to respond to my emails, but I know if I was a different counselor, I could. This is what I'm dealing with, and I need you all to understand that because there does continue to be a lack of equity in policing in our city. The chief's in his press conference, I appreciated the things he said in his press conference with the mayor. And he did refer to a partnership, right? The partnership with the public. I agree with that. But what are we doing to make that partnership happen? So when we talked about some of the other comments that have been addressed, we continue to not see the community engagement that we need. We reference videos that we want the public to look at to help identify people. Where do they go for those videos? Why aren't those videos shared on social media? Again, no robust social media plan. And some of us don't use social media, but there's whole generations now that do use social media as their way of getting news. And also when we talk about who we're trying to recruit, right? When we talk about recruitment and retention, it continues to be very important. And we're not doing anything in that manner, especially to address the very bad online reputation that our department has. Officers at a August 22 Police Commission meeting reviewed the survey. They talked about this. I recommend you go back and look at that meeting. Everything that they said back then still holds true. And I've never said I don't believe them, but what I have said over and over again is we have not done anything to honestly address their concerns. And the last thing I'll say is I appreciate when the commission reviews commendations, but that's another thing that we could see the chief and other leadership in BPD when they do the outreach that they do in these police the press conferences, and if they go to an MPA meeting, for example, when people talk about a good experience they have with an officer, leadership should be encouraging people and reminding people to submit commendations, and that's really important. And then just also making sure that for people who are being sworn in, that me as a city councilor, I can't go with only 2 days or 3 days notice. I need to know at least a week and ahead of time, and I would attend these things to welcome these people to our department. But time and time again, despite bringing it up, we do not get timely notice. So some people can do it at the last minute, others can't. These continue to be things I am concerned about. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Item 4 is Chief's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much for having me here. I'm going to go through this. I saw the time certains that were in the agenda, and I'll try to stick to that. First of all, I want to begin before even opening the report, and is that once. Thank you so much. Before even addressing it, I just want to point out that it was published and sent on, I believe, Friday, before this weekend unfolded. I was leaving work around 5, intending to come back in around 9 to work the evening shift, which I did, and that evening shift turned into something quite other than what I had hoped it would be. But so this report itself does not address the meat of the, and that's July, so, yeah. it does not address the meat of what the press conference that the mayor and I held yesterday addressed, which was an incredible spate of violence over the past month of August. So the current report it's also online if you, okay, you got it. Awesome. Gotcha. Thank you. There we go. That is Rocky, our service dog, a member of the CAPE team, the hairiest member of the CAPE team, but a very important member of that team. CAPE stands for Crisis Advocacy Intervention Programs and is a program unique to the Burlington Police Department. Next slide, please. Our swearing-in ceremony was held on the 1st of August. We added 4 new sworn officers and also honored professional positions that had been brought aboard prior to that, but since the last swearing-in ceremony that we'd done in February. Among those were some new dispatchers. We promoted Anna Wagling from Community Support Liaison, part of the CAPE team, to the Community Support Supervisor. That's her in the center on the bottom, being sworn in by DC Lebrec. There are 3 dispatchers that you can see there on the bottom left. And then I'm giving a plaque to Corporal Carolyn Irwin there, honoring 20 years of service from Corporal Irwin. Corporal Irwin is our recruitment officer. She and our recruitment coordinator, Anhad Bajwa, have done really amazing work over the past 2 years. In 2023, we saw the most new hires we'd ever seen. And although this year we have not attained the marks that we wanted to, what we have obtained, including those 4 new recruits there that you can see swearing in on the 1st of August, are because of recruit coordinator Bajwa and recruitment officer Irwin. Really grateful to them for their long service. I regret to say that one of those recruits, the police academy is a tough environment, and we have already lost one of those recruits, but that is the nature of the job. We anticipate that. I build that kind of attrition into our projections. I will say that the attrition this year has been a little higher than I had built into my earliest projections at the beginning of the year. I had really hoped to be in the very low 70s, and I do not believe we will be there. I believe we'll be in the very high 60s or the mid 60s even at the end of this calendar year, which is not where we want to be. Next slide, please. Our CSOs, really important role, the community service officer, unarmed, unsworn, but they do work, especially a lot of work with animals. And so there was Humane Society training that we hosted at the BPD. Police officers and employees from other agencies came to BPD. Our parking lot was completely packed and a mess, but we were glad to have them there, along with the Humane Society, doing this important work on both animal welfare and animal cruelty. Next, please. This is a picture of discipline and oversight based on the new work that we've done together on DD40. And I am incredibly grateful to this police commission for the work that was done on DD40. I thought that we had a really exemplary partnership as we developed that much needed, overdue overhaul of the former DD40. And so what I did here is I went through past complaints and past reviews and relabeled them according to the terminology that we now use in DD40, the one that was adopted last month. And this gives you a picture of the volume of complaints and also the volume of reviews that comes through. And I think that's important. I think it's very important as we talk about reviews and about oversight. I do not believe that we need additional oversight, and I think that we need to let this really exemplary directive live. I think that we have established a new relationship with the Police Commission, one that is now codified in very delineated, specific ways. We have an extremely fair process. And many of the concerns that have been voiced before, is it easy to make a complaint? Absolutely, it is easy to make a complaint. Are there multiple ways to do so? Absolutely, there are multiple ways to do so online to various persons at various locations around the city. Does every single complaint go to another body other than the BPD? Yes, it does. What is the quality of the investigation? I certainly believe they're high quality. I don't believe there's been a criticism of the quality of the investigations. Is there transparency? There is with this body of representative members of the public. Certainly we can't make it transparent in the same way that I make data transparent. These are personnel matters with officers and, for that matter, complainants who deserve privacy and that kind of protection. But it is transparent with you, the appointed members of the public. Are other entities included? The DD40 now officially includes not only the Police Commission, but also the Human Resources Department of the City of Burlington, the City Attorney's Office, the Mayor's Office, as well as the Police Department. Is there criminal accountability? Excuse me, is there professional accountability? Yes. There's professional accountability that is outside the scope of the Burlington Police Department. It's run by the Vermont Criminal Justice Council, and the reporting requirements to the Criminal Justice Council are encoded in law and encoded in DD40. And this body, this independent body, the Police Commission, can make that reporting on its own if it so desires. Is there criminal accountability? Absolutely there is criminal accountability. If officers violate the law, there are at least 3 bodies that judge that violation. The State's Attorney's Office, the Attorney General's Office, and the United States Attorney's Office. And so the real objection seems to be who has the final say in that discipline, and a concern that it not be the Chief of Police to have that final say. But frankly, the Chief of Police doesn't, because there is a grievance process, there is an arbitration process, there's labor review. I think that this really speaks to that, and especially considering that the serious cases that we really consider are, as you see there on the right hand of the graphic, 7, 6, 5, 3, 3, 5, and year to date, I think 3, that says, like, my glasses are bad, so yeah, 3. And for us to put together what we are proposing by charter change is, to my mind, snow tires in Florida. If you live in Miami, you don't need Hacapolitas. And I think that we have a system right now that works really, really well, and I'm proud of it. That's not a position, that is a position that I am articulating as the Chief of Police on behalf of the BPD, and separate, frankly, from other parts of the city. Next, please. The BPD sworn officer headcount. The sworn officer headcount is shown here, tells us where we are as of August 1st, 69. We're actually a bit lower than that because, as I said, we lost one of those recruits, and we are at 68 as of this day right now. Next, please. This is another way of looking at it. I've shown this slide before, but this is updated. The blue line is effective headcount, and the orange line is actual headcount. It doesn't entirely comport with the previous slide, if anyone tries to look at that, because this is being looked at as of the 15th of each month, whereas the previous slide is pegged to the 1st of each month. But in that red circle, that downturn in effective numbers, even as our actual numbers have risen, has been really troubling and problematic and challenging and exhausting for the men and women in the department. It's not a huge number. I mean, this scale right there is basically in increments of 5, those lines, 55 to 60, and that's only 2 officers, but 2 officers makes a tremendous difference, and it was felt a lot. Next, please. One way of looking at that and what that means is this: incidents versus head count, month to month. And this picture is, you can see it goes the axis goes a lot higher than the number, and there's a reason for that. The trend, if we just compare sworn officers to total incidents per month, and we just divide them into one another, that trend has doubled since June of 2020, that the average number of incidents per officer, per total number of sworn officers, has doubled. But what is more troubling is the next slide, which shows the exact same information in red with the same trend line, and in blue what you have is our non-supervisory patrol officers. Now, the vast majority of incidents are done by patrol officers. It's true, however, that we are working to try to minimize that, at least not minimize it, but we are trying to find ways to have other officers or other employees take on some of that burden. There are a tiny handful of incidents that get recorded at the airport in any given month. And so some of those numbers, those month-to-month numbers, are airport incidents. There are a tiny number of incidents that are initiated by detectives as opposed to being taken over by detectives after an initial patrol response, and those have to be considered. But we also have our CSOs, and our CSOs have been doing In 2022, they were the primary officer on 16% of incidents. In 2023, 12, and they are 13% so far in 2024. And so that tripling of responsibility per officer is not entirely accurate, but it is far more accurate than the doubling of responsibility that you see in the red group, because it is non-supervisory patrol officers who take it on the chin when it comes to the volume of work, and they are simply overtaxed. And it's tremendously worrisome for me what this slide shows. Next, please. And this slide is where we are total, 68 as of the 15th of August. It hasn't changed since then. 68 total, 58 effective. That very handsome officer in the center there, Sergeant Vinnie Ross with the sunglasses, has left us. And that is one of those departures that created the change in effective on that previous slide that I showed you. You know, that kind of departure is hard and is something that we you know, that is difficult to make up for. He was in its 10th year, just the profession is not for him anymore. And he left our city exhausted and went to New York State and is looking for other kinds of work. We lost a really great sergeant. He was a military officer. He had a master's degree, and he was somebody that, you know, would have been continued to contribute to the city and to the department. You see there are other numbers as well, 5 community support liaisons, 5 community service officers, and then you see the breakdown. And, you know, every now and then I look on social media. I make the mistake of going to the Reddit page, for example, and people there will talk without any sense of knowledge or expertise about how these officers are deployed or why the 90 officers that they think the Burlington Police Department has are not properly sent out or dispatched. And I really, really wish that we could get more attention to a slide like this that tells us very clearly there's no secret to how the department is divvied up and the roles in which people are assigned, to which they are assigned and in which they are deployed. Next, please. Again, a description of those community service officers, of those community support liaisons. We have one of the CSLs in background. I'm confident that person's going to be onboarded before the end of the calendar year, probably before the leaves fully change. And so that's a good thing. The 5 CSOs we're working on building to that. Next, please. The priority response plan here, not because anybody can see it in this room, because you can't, even on that big screen, but because for those who are opening the document for the first time, it grounds them in the sort of volume that we have, or excuse me, the breadth of incident that we record. Next, please. A discussion of the priority response plan, again, something that we have seen before. The priority response plan kicks in when only 2 officers are available for calls for service, and then we no longer respond to priority 2s or priority 3s, and we reserve those 2 officers for priority 1s. As soon as additional officers return to availability, then we go back to answering priority 3s and 2s. Next, please. Incident volume. So that's by the way, that's the book brigade. There was a bucket brigade moving books ceremonially from the old Phoenix books to the new Phoenix books on Church Street, a great sign of the fact that this is still a vibrant marketplace. We have a long-time marketplace tenant that is doubling down on being a part of this community and a part of this market, and I don't want that to be lost, even as we talk about, you know, tough things that are happening. But I was really happy to get to participate in that. It was a great day, a lot of very happy people, and, you know, I certainly love books. You'll see there from the year-to-date incidents, we're fractionally higher than last year, 1%. Really, we're basically even. But we are quite a bit higher than we were in 2019. And we are doing that volume of work with fewer officers than we used to have. And I realized just now as I'm looking at this that I did not fill in the number that had been stacked or the number that had been begun as online reports, nor the percentages. So I apologize for that, and I'll try to fix it, and we'll replace the one, if not the one that's on the city's website for this commission, I'll definitely replace the one that's up on our website. That was my mistake. Apologies. Next, please. Selected Valcor incidents. Somebody, a member of the media today reached out and pointed out something that actually I had not noticed, which was the tremendous increase in overdose from 288 to 353. That is a very troubling and very extraordinary increase. We'd actually been doing better than we had done last year, and that really says that we're not now. I don't know where that came from. I have been, frankly, paying attention to the violence that we've been experiencing this month, a number of really troubling incidents around assault and group activity that had absorbed my attention. We don't go to, as police, as many overdoses anymore. Overdoses are being treated as fire responsibilities. Our CAPE team does go to them at times, certainly our nascent CARES team. The CRT of the fire department goes to them. We, as police, go when there is a clear criminal nexus beyond just the fact that the person must have taken drugs, which is criminal. But when there are, it's firearms, when a person is barricaded and overdosed, when a person is overdosed in a car. And so we don't go to as many anymore, although we track all of them still. And I guess that is a contributing rationale for why I just did not notice how much this had spiked. But that is certainly troubling. And then end, which is just our slide about what we are offering. We are hiring and we are trying our best to get more people. We've got work on, our recruitment team has work on a video that they are putting together. I believe that starts next week after Labor Day. And then we have some additional efforts we're doing with regard to sort of targeted headhunting. And we are trying everything that we know of to get new members into this department and provide this essential service to the public. And that's it. Thank you very much. And of course, I'll take all questions if there are.
Thank you, Chief. We have a few moments for commissioners to ask any question. Chief, I strongly suggest that you do not visit the Burlington Reddit, social media, the names that this body is called at any given moment. So that's, I'm not sure, though I understand you probably go there to just sort of see the pulse, check the pulse, but I know exactly what you are thinking when you read that, but
one has to be careful with that.
Yes, one has to be very careful. Any questions? I see Commissioner Cox's hand is up. Commissioner Cox.
I was just wondering if there was anything that we could do as a commission to help with attracting and retaining police officers. Is there anything we can do to help make this a pleasant place to work?
That's a terrific question, Commissioner, and I don't entirely know the answer. I think that we have talked in the past about expressions from various persons, the mayor or from the city council or from the police commission of statements of desire for good candidates. Like, we want good cops. All of us do. And we may have different things in our heads about what a good cop is or is not, although we all want them to be compassionate and have integrity and be lawful and well-trained. But I think that we can all say honestly that we want good cops, and we want good cops here, and that we need them to come to our city. And I do think there's an avenue for a statement of that sort, with pictures or perhaps even in a video of some sort. And so I'll think about that as we talk to this team that comes in, as I said, I believe next week.
Recognizing Commissioner Depper.
Yes, thank you for your report, Chief. This is Commissioner Depper. I'm sorry I don't have a sign yet. But I had a question. Last month when we spoke, I asked you about exit interviews and if we've been getting data from that. You had indicated that it was something that you would consider de-identifying that information for data analysis purposes. Have you moved any at all on that?
No, and I apologize for that sincerely. It is something that I want to do. I'm not dragging my heels on it. I did not do it, and I need to and want to. So I'm sorry for that.
Not a problem. I just wanted to follow up on it. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions from any of the other commissioners? Commissioner Comerford.
I'm interested, Chief, if you could talk to us more about some of the youth activity and explain what you think is going on there and what are the necessary steps to move forward in that area.
I think what is going on there is something that we've already seen as a phenomenon in the city several years ago. I think several years ago we saw groups of young people who were acting in concert. They were a little bit out of control. Their out-of-control behavior started relatively small, with small acts of vandalism, group fights with each other, and it metastasized into robberies, and then it metastasized further into the gun violence that we began to see in 2020, 2021, and really its apex in 2022. By no means were all of those gunfire incidents related to this group of young folks, but as I said before, about half were. And I think what we are seeing right now is the beginnings of the exact same problem. And if we don't address it, we're going to be in the same place in a couple years. And actually, it seems like they're moving much faster because they are already displaying firearms at an absolutely alarming rate. The video that we shared with the media, we linked to it, multiple media outlets linked to it. It is something that anybody can find and look at that shows an altercation in the alley 30 feet from where we are sitting, in which, there's a dozen people involved, and of them, 7 to 10 display firearms or make gestures that are strongly indicative of obtaining firearms from their person. And we see that in a way that is really, really frightening to me. And it was that activity that actually brought me out on patrol on Friday night. Although it did not appear on Friday night, nor did it have anything to do with the murder that unfortunately terribly occurred, that I ended up being on patrol for. But that activity is alarming. We had about 7 incidents involving these groups of youths, and we don't know, not all of them are youths. Some of them are in their 20s, some of them are juveniles. The ones that we were able to positively identify as juveniles were redacted. As we gain more information, we'll either take our source of video down or redact it further and post it again. If we identify juveniles, we've made arrests of juveniles and returned them to their parents. We have a problem in Vermont with regard to the tools that we have to address violent criminal behavior in juveniles. We no longer have a way to hold juveniles when parents can't control them. We have a very opaque family court system. And when these young people are arrested, we don't get any additional information after that arrest, really. It disappears. And that is a challenge for being able to determine who among these young people are our real drivers of violence. Because the fact is that any number of kids may go out and run around together, or young adults may go out and run around together, and some of them, even in the videos you'll see people pulling others off of prostrate, victims. They're not all violent. Some of them are there for the thrill, the belonging, the sense of being out in the city at night. Others are violent, and some are so violent that they will carry firearms and even use them. And being able to figure out which ones those are is a real challenge for us.
So is there a community-wide task force or something that's looking at this from all the different angles? So some of them are juveniles, they may or may not be in school, but they're different, there's different groups within the groups. What's happening with that?
We have shared this information with the school. I mean to talk to the superintendent myself. I was meant to do that today, but I was in an all-day meeting. I will. We shared it with other law enforcement in the area, including school resource officers at other departments still have school resource officers, which is the single best way to understand what's happening in a school from a law enforcement perspective. That the relationships that get formed there and the embedded police officer is a really great tool for keeping kids on the straight and narrow, for understanding the dynamics that are happening, and for being able to identify and hopefully forestall kids who are really on the wrong track.
So is there a task force itself? Should there be one?
We have not convened one.
It might be time.
I appreciate that suggestion.
And just looking at the time, are there any questions? I just have one question to follow up to Commissioner Comerford, which is, do you have any sense of where these, some of them children, are getting access to guns?
We believe many are stolen from vehicles and from homes. Others, we know of young adults who are not juveniles who have attempted to purchase despite being denied the right to purchase because of ongoing cases. We have a number of individuals who have been involved multiple times with us, including as shooters, who are still out and about and committing more acts of violence. And that is a challenge for us as well.
All right, thank you, Chief. We're moving on to item 5, which is commission business. Was there 4 point, did I miss that? Okay. The 4.2 is use of force. Right, because there are 2 use of force discussion today, so I'm sorry. Thank you, Commissioner Oski, for pointing that out. I have a list of requests from various commissioners and they all relate to certain directives. I have a list of them, which I will send to you, Chief. Should I CC DC LeBrecq?
Yes, please. Make certain that you CC DC LeBrecq.
Okay.
Yep.
He's the one I know who processes these and
Yes.
sends it forward. Okay. So I'm not going to mention all of them, but for the public, item 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11 with specific directives. DD05, DD1303, yes, DD05 mostly, and DD1303. And I'll make a list and forward them to you, Chief. Okay. Item 5 is commission business, 5.1, and just a kind of an overview. There are ground rules of meetings, including commission meeting, in the absence of bylaws, and they were suggested in consultation with attorneys Haley McClanahan and attorney Jessica Brown, who's here. And Attorney Brown, if I am saying something that does not reflect our discussion, please correct me. These rules are the ones City Council has adopted over the years. Other than public comments, only commissioners and members of BPD and other invited guests who are part of the agenda will be allowed to speak during the meetings. Executive session is a continuation of the public meeting, and all rules of the public meeting apply to the executive session. All commissioners are allowed to speak once, and they have to be recognized by the chair. Please raise your hand, and I am glad to call upon you. No one commissioner will be allowed to dominate the conversation, and will have 3 to 5 minutes to speak on each topic. And recognize that each commissioner will be allowed to speak uninterrupted. Each commissioner may speak second or third time, of course, but only after all other commissioners have been given the opportunity. This was suggested as a restorative way to allow all commissioners to express their opinions. The chair will call for recess if these rules are violated by members of the public, members of BPD, or by commissioners themselves, and after they have been given 1 warning. Those are the general rules. I also hope that Commissioner Oski and I will be able to write the bylaws that we have been working on for some time and circulate a copy in the very near future. Thank you, Commissioner Oski. 5.2, discuss commission process on citizen complaint. After doing this work for 2 years, Commissioner Keefe is stepping aside. We thank him for his diligent work and appreciate all that he has done. And I also think it's a good time to revisit how the citizen complaint process of the commission has worked. I was going to suggest a sort of a 2-pronged approach. The new commission staff person upload the complaints and dispositions on SharePoint as they arrive to the commission from BPD so that all commissioners have access to the complaint disposition in real time. And B, that a citizen complaint subcommittee be instituted on a 6-month rotational basis where 2 members of the commission review the material, present to the commission on a monthly basis or as needed. But this is just a suggestion. I'm open to both volunteers, if you agree, or some other process. Commissioner Comerford, you had your hand up.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, Okay.
Residual
Oh.
hand.
Okay, Commissioner Oski.
Thank you, Chair. Rahul, I like the idea of having a subcommittee of 2 members on a rotating basis to track and advise the commission on what's going on with the complaints. And I would volunteer to be one of 2 members for the next 6 months.
Thank you, Commissioner Oski. Do we have any other volunteers? Commissioner Cox?
I'll volunteer for the first subcommittee.
Okay, thank you, both of you. Does the 6-month rotational basis work for now? We can revisit the time limit. There's no, it's not set in stone. After 6 months, we can ask the 2 commissioners if they wish to continue, or we can, again, have the other people step in. Does that make sense? Everyone agreeable to that, so that the one person is not left with the burden? Yes, okay. Thank you, everyone. Process and 5.3, process and outcome of use of force body-worn cameras. Commissioner Cox, do you wish to speak to that? And I also have a request from the chief. Commissioner Cox.
So, okay, I want to be careful and not talk to anything that's should be left for the executive session, but I'll just say that I was actually looking at the BPD annual report, and I felt that what appeared to me that the portion of the report dealing with use of force incidents was not as well developed or fleshed out as what I would feel comfortable with. And so I've met remotely with the city data people, discussed what they did and sort of what I have in mind. And in particular, for example, when we watched the use of force body cam videos, it was seeming to me that there was a large number of people that were maybe would fall under the rubric of DD 13.3, and I was concerned that is it the case that all of the cases that fall within that directive are having use of force? Is every person that is diminished capacity for whatever reason getting arrested and handcuffed and some force used against them? And so I started looking at the data in context of, for example, all of the incidents. And so in January of 2023, for example, I believe that there were 119 or 117 incidents that were tagged by the police department as involving interaction with persons with a mental health condition of some kind, or that mental health played a role in the incident. But there were only 2 cases where use of force was applied. So you had to look not just at the use of force numbers, but look at the use of force numbers in context of all of the interactions that the police had during the month. And I think that the same thing holds true with all of the data points within the use of force data. You can't just look at it at its own thing. You need to look at it in context to really understand what's going on. And then the other thing I was really starting to think about was that I would like to discuss with the BPOA the possibility of us viewing body cam videos for incidents where no force was used. So for example, so that we could understand how it was that in 117 out of the 119 cases that no force was used, and they were able to resolve things just using de-escalation techniques. and good policing. And so that we can use those actions as a guide to us to say, this is what really worked great. And then in this other case, they used use of force. Were they using use of force instead of the good techniques? Or were just in this one particular case, the good techniques weren't working with that individual? There's a lot of questions there, but it would be good, I think, for us to see, to really start understanding if we could see some of the non-use of force videos, again, not for the purpose of penalizing or discipline, but for the purpose of us understanding on a more global scale what the police do on a day-to-day basis that really works good. So
I just to kind of add to that is the question that I have been asking, and this is a question for the commission as a whole, is what are the outcomes of us watching the body-worn camera videos that we are asking for? Like, what are we looking for? Are we looking to provide feedback to BPD? I'm not sure we have a mechanism for that. Is it time for us to think about those? We all watch those videos. Then what? I'm open to listening to other people's ideas on that. I guess Commissioner Cox again.
I guess I would just suggest that I don't know if you sent it around, but the spreadsheet that I prepared with my take, my point of view on the videos that we watched during this last month. And I guess I'd really like to be able to discuss openly in executive session, but openly with an open mind, discuss these with the chief and with DC Lebrecq and DC Labarge and whoever else might be appropriate from the police side of things, to be able to discuss the cases and talk about globally what we've seen, what seems good practice to us, be able to ask the questions that we have without anyone getting offended by us asking the question. And at the same time, us asking questions that are really designed just to elicit a deeper understanding on our part so that we can make common sense understandings of what it is that we're seeing.
Does anybody have any other suggestions or any other thoughts on that?
I do.
Okay, Commissioner.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback on Commissioner Cox's comments. I think the process has been in the past is exactly what you're suggesting, is that we do meet with the heads of the police department and we evaluate the videos. If we see something that, that we should question. I think that's been, my 4 years on the commission, that's been the process. And I think it works pretty good. So I think we should continue to do that and discuss. I mean, I think, well, Susan's still was on the commission back then too, but I think that's the way we've done it in the past. Is that correct, Susan?
Commissioner
Yeah.
Comerford, go ahead.
I think that's correct. And I also think that I agree with Mary that it would be helpful at one of our meetings to spend some time, maybe a half hour or so, just thinking through and talking together about what we're looking for exactly. What are the kinds of things we're looking for? I think it would help us. I think it has worked okay in the past, but I think we could take it to a deeper level with some support and get better understanding Um, That's all I'll say. But I think I actually agree with Mary.
Thank you, Comerford. Thank you, Commissioner Comerford. And I think that's a good way of looking at it, which is, I mean, I would support that too, is to not only try to understand best practices and not only try to understand what could go wrong, but also what are the best practices that we can advocate for, and BPD needs to advocate for itself. Commissioner Cox, last point.
I just wanted to mention that I really appreciate DC Lebrec assisting me with how to think about some of the data that I'm looking at with respect to the use of force cases and so on. And he's been super helpful, and I look forward to working with him some more. Thank you.
Commissioner Comerford, do you have your hand up again, or you just?
I wanted to say that it might be helpful, Mary, if you had time just to write down some of your thoughts about what you've learned and share it with us. That might be an interesting place to start.
Commissioner
So
Cox?
I'm sorry, with respect to the data,
Not only the data, but interpreting the data. That kind
okay,
of thing.
sure. It's sort of in a work in progress right now because the public facing database is only complete through about mid-June of 2023. And so the city was going to see if they could get it through the end of the year. So I only have like a short database to work with. But already I think I've come up with some good ideas about how to look at the data. And so the rest will just be filling in once we get that data. But I'm looking forward to be part of the report at the end of the day of our annual report. And so definitely I want to discuss it with the whole commission as we go along.
Thank you. And I also want to tell people, it's not in the agenda, but tell people that both Commissioner Comerford and Commissioner Cox wanted Nancy Stetson to return to the commission for the October meeting, and I have asked her to do so that both of you may have some questions, further questions about the BPD annual report. So she will be appearing in front of the commission at that time. So. Okay, also as part of the use of force body-worn camera request, can the commission request from BPD a list of all training of BPD officers for review for our annual report? Preferably if we can receive it by the September meeting, that would be great, Chief. I know Shannon Trammell has been documenting that for a while. And I believe she had told us that she was going to send it to us at some one point, and I know she's really busy. But we are going to start working on our annual report, and I would like to include that.
She's been out. I've been thinking a lot about her. She's been out with some illness issues, and so I'm hopeful I can get that for you and talk to our training coordinator.
Thank you. 5.4 is deliberation about DD40 and CNA recommendations. The document was circulated by Commissioner Keefe, recognizing Commissioner Keefe. Do you have anything to add to the document that you circulated?
No, not at this time.
Okay, Commissioner Cox?
So I was thinking that that document might be a good, at least a starting point, but for inclusion in our annual report. And I don't know if I understand each element or each observation that Commissioner Keefe made. And so I guess I would ask, could you go back through your observations and provide links to what it is that you're looking at specifically, or more specifically describe what it is that you're looking at, so that we can look at it too and come to the same understanding you have. And then maybe we could either agree to agree or agree to amend it or agree to change it somehow, all of your observations and recommendations, and then include the final product as part of our annual report. And so I was wondering if you would be amenable to that, Commissioner.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, actually, that's a good segue into the fact that I think it's time for the commission, now that Commissioner Oski is back from Africa, for all of us to talk about the annual report that we are expected to compile. And I have been going through the past annual reports and realizing that each annual report of the commission for the last 3 years has had different elements to it. So what I was going to do between now and September meeting is to send you, the entire commission, a kind of a executive summary, if I may, which includes some of these points, like, for example, complaints and what has been covered in the past, but perhaps not all elements. And at that point, I can definitely include Commissioner Keefe's analysis as well, and we can go from there. Commissioner Oski.
If it makes sense, maybe you could split up the annual report and assign pieces of it to each member to take a shot at.
That's a great suggestion, but to do that, I would like to at least have a few sections that I can then circulate, right? And that actually makes perfect, so that only you are not working or only I'm not working. Okay, thank you. I hope that's agreeable to everybody, what Commissioner Oski suggested. Perfect. Item 6 is officer commendations. I only have 2, and I'm not going to read. Both of them are very lengthy, so I'm not going to read both of them. I'm just going to read the most important part of both of these commendations that actually relate, that are commendations. To all of the BPD, thank you for keeping us safe. Please take good care. And when you get discouraged, we have your back. To the injured officers recently injured while in service, get well and take good care of each other. The second one is from the staff of Hotel Vermont. Again, it's a lengthy email to the chief, but I'm only going to read the very conclusive part. As we are checking in with individual team members again today, the swift and effective action taken by the Burlington Police Department and the Burlington Fire Department, including uniformed officers, EMTs, leadership, and CSL provided comfort and a sense of control in a time of crisis. Our gratitude and thanks to all who assisted yesterday. Simply incredible. Item 7 is commissioner comments. I'll start, and then I'm going to let all commissioners speak. First, thank you, Tim, for being a temporary but fabulous administrative support staff person. This is your last meeting, and we look forward to getting some staff support within the next few weeks. I sent a job description to Aaron Jacobson at the mayor's office. Further, I have been notified that the city attorney's office is working to restore the funding and contract of an independent counsel for the commission. We should have an update at the commission September meeting, and the mayor is scheduled to attend the September meeting as well. Okay, and now we have some time for any commissioner comments. Commissioner Oski.
Thank you. First comment, these are both to Chief Murad. The first one is, I, like many members of the commission, received notice of the press conference, but could not find any way to watch it online. So I guess I would echo Councilor Grant's comments about a social media presence. I don't know how hard it would be to have Facebook Live, any press events that you have, but it would certainly help to those of us that can't get to the station or wherever the press conference was held to stay in the know. That would be great. And generally, a more robust, I think when I read there was an event, a couple events that happened in my neighborhood, I went to look, I mean, I can get the press releases, but I went to look at, see if there was anything on social media, on the police department, and it's not, it seems like it could be used more to inform members of the community that aren't connected into the press releases.
I appreciate that. We certainly normally do Facebook stream. We were unable to do that on Monday, but I will share that information with the PIO and make certain that the PIO she's in the process of learning how to do that Facebook stream. It was carried by Town Meeting TV, and that's often the case. They attend when we call. We don't hold these very often. Thankfully, even with the volume of incidents, we've had incidents of that scale and scope, or an agglomeration of that many incidents is not a common occurrence. So with regard to putting press releases, et cetera, on social media, I really don't agree with that. I think our social media presence is primarily informational about things that we're doing. It's talk about, for example, our things like the swearing-in ceremony, and the press releases tend to be about crimes, et cetera, and I don't think I don't think our Facebook page, for example, is a suitable place for that. We wouldn't put anything on social media that isn't, I mean, the press releases are the sum total of any information that we're going to provide at any given time. And so I certainly welcome any individual in the city who wants to have his or her email address on that list. We'll take them all and add them. We've made that clear. The PIO has gone to NPAs and made that offer to people. And I think that we have added quite a few folks who are just individual citizens as opposed to, news outlets and agencies. But I don't see putting those on our Facebook presence. We're starting to develop an Instagram presence, and I don't believe it would be really appropriate for that location either.
Okay, if the press conference is going to be streamed live on Town Meeting TV, I don't think the press release mentioned that, so it would be helpful if it had that.
Yeah, I don't know that we knew it at the time because that was something that was arranged. In other words, once we sent out the invitation and said we're doing this press, that we got a reach out from Town Meeting TV, and they said we'd like to attend and we'll do it. And we said that sounds great. We like that when you do. When we're planning an event like the swearing in, we generally know ahead of time that we've already spoken with them about it. Something like a press conference like this it evolves very quickly.
Right,
But in
and
the
those are
future,
the things that
Yeah.
the public is most interested in,
Yep.
too. So the other thing is I want to respectfully express my concern about your continued criticism of the council's proposed charter change regarding police oversight. The criticism is divisive and not unifying. More oversight should be welcome, even if it is, as you characterize it, snow tires in Florida, because climate change is real, as is the lack of trust between many parts of our community and the Burlington Police Department. I would like to see our police leaders embrace oversight, humility, and transparency, and seek out ways to collaborate and build trust with those parts of our community that are marginalized.
I believe that stating a strongly held opinion about a subject that is important to me, the department.
I didn't
and
ask
men
for a
and women in it,
response, thank you.
Fair enough, is not divisive.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Oski. Commissioner Comerford, comments?
I'd like to go back to the earlier conversation. We were talking about some of the challenges for a segment of the youth in our community, and tell some of you and remind others that we had a conversation 3 years ago about mental health, out of which came a large community event that was handled primarily by the city, ultimately, and another organization, which I forget now. And I think we're in the same place now. This is not just an isolated issue. This is a community-wide event that's happening, that's causing harm in our community. And these are young people. So I want to, again, make a push for some kind of a collaborative response, bringing people together who have skin in this game in one way or another, and really thinking through together as a community, how do we respond to this issue? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Comerford. It's a good reminder. Any other commissioners have any comments for today's meeting? I see no hands. That concludes our business for today. It is item 8. Is there a motion regarding special findings? I just want to make sure. Does the chief needs to see us, has anything for the executive session?
Nothing that is developed enough to report. As soon as you tell me affirmative, as soon as you affirm what was decided today in the meeting about who I should make reports to about complaints, we do have one that came in that was not online, and therefore I need to notify you about that. But I don't think we need to go to executive session to do that. We wouldn't in the past. It would be something that I'd inform you about just by sharing the complaint.
And the
itself.
email, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. We do have a subcommittee. We do have a subcommittee made of complaint, made up of Commissioner Cox and Commissioner Oski.
Then I will have that notification sent to Commissioner Cox and Commissioner Oski.
Right, and just if, I can do this too, but if you can notify DC Labarge as well.
I will.
So that he's on board. Commissioner Oski.
I was just going to suggest that it may be simpler and more streamlined for it to go to you. I don't know if that's too much burden on you, and then have you send it out so that it's one point of contact for the police on, for the department on these complaints, and that we aren't continuing to switch it up.
Correct. No, I think that's very easy. It's called forwarding emails. I can certainly do that. So that was changed, Chief.
Okay.
What you just heard, send everything to me, and then I'll just forward it as it arrives.
Yes, ma'am.
But at some point, I think we have to figure out how to upload that information on SharePoint now that we have lost Tim, et cetera, et cetera. That's a separate matter. But am I hearing from people that we still need an executive session? It sounds like we do. That people want to talk about the use of force body-worn camera that we watched and discuss it, the specifics, some of the specifics of it. Commissioner Cox, I'm sorry, go ahead.
So is my understanding correct that we will discuss it as a commission without the chief or without BPD representatives this evening, and then what we discuss this evening and come to any conclusions on, then we'll share next month or share via email, or what do we think?
That sounds right. I mean, maybe Commissioner Garrison and Commissioner Comerford can inform us as to how we had historically had been done in these situations. That's my understanding, is that we get, as a commission, confer on the videos that we watched and then proceed from there. Either of you, Commissioner Garrison or Commissioner Comerford? Commissioner Garrison.
I think in the past, we've always had a discussion with the chief and also DC on the matters of the video. And then we would have a meeting with just the commission alone. And then if we had to go back to the chief with more questions, it's a process, but I think that's how we've done it in the past.
Commissioner Comerford?
I remember it slightly differently, that we just met as a group, unless there was a particular reason we wanted the chief to be present. Chief has been present, once or twice. But it was basically a commission discussion, unless otherwise invited.
Yeah, that's how I remember my first few meetings too. I am with Commissioner Comerford, that we as a group had met and we had asked Chief to be present if we had any questions, but not just if we are having a discussion. So I'm okay with us just discussing it, since Commissioner Cox has given us a list of questions and thoughts she has about those cameras. And if we have any pressing questions in the next meeting, we can ask the chief to be there. I think could be the simplest way. And
That's fine with me.
Commissioner Oski.
I move for a special finding that premature general public knowledge of the commission's hearing of use of force incidents would clearly place the state, municipality, or other public body or persons involved at a substantial disadvantage.
Is there a second? Is there a second? I second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Is there a motion to move into executive session?
I move that the commission enter executive session based upon the special finding pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1D
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The commission will now move into executive session and will not return to the public meeting. Thank you all.